Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our channel, Automation Rocketship. Our Automation Rocketship crew is back to have a wonderful discussion on discovering automation and finding your motivation. So we all get asked this question, like, how can we help others, like, hop onto this automation journey? So why don't you both share, like, how you have helped people find their motivation to start automating? Andy, do you want to go first?
I'll turn this over to Pradeep this time. Pradeep, you can start because I know you have a lot of good ideas and
All right.
yeah.
So I'll give it a go from my end. All right. So it's so there are two parts of this, right? Discovering automation. So first part is discovering automation. Where do you discover automation and how do you see it? So if you look around, right, being in IT, uh, and not just directly being IT, right? Even if you are in a supporting role, or even if you are, whether you are a consumer of an IT product or IT service, as we all are, right? We all, in our day-to-day life, in some or the other form, we always use an IT product, whether it's your cell phone, an app on that cell phone, or you're using logging to your website to order, for example, just ordering stuff on Amazon, right? So when we are using it, we always find there are areas where you can always add improvement to it. Even if you look at Amazon itself, right? As you keep ordering stuff or a particular item, what happens? It's it's automating behind the scene. It's learning about your choices, your preferences, and then it's able to suggest those options back to you. And in a way, it's automating our decision making, right? It also tells us when we are going to run out of sugar at home, right? To if you go as basic as possible. So that's the way we need to look at how we at work or in our personal life. We need to look at things where we can find an efficiency and we can bring it to the next level. And that can be used with various tools, right? If you're coming from a business background, you would know that, okay, if you have to uh, prepare this particular business case every month, or for every new customer, every new lead that you have to build, you know what those processes, those steps you have to go through. And you may be, it may be just on your tip of the tongue. Every time you can repeat it, just like uh, just like you don't even have to think about it, right? So that's the trigger point, right? When you reach that level, when you can do something in your sleep, right? You don't even have to think about it. That's the point that now this particular process has graduated to that level that this needs to be handed off. This doesn't need your intelligence, right? Now you need to move on to find something else and improve it better with time. So that's what the discovering automation, I would define that way.
Pradeep, would you also agree that, like, if I say this, like I've told this in many other offline topics as well, that if you hate it, why don't you automate it? Like, because if you're like doing this like day in, day out, and you know it like the back of your hand,
Right.
then it feels like it's so repetitive. And there are people that like just hate running reports, or like just doing stuff like on a daily basis. I think that's what like should be like the painstaking job should be given to the robots, and you as human should be doing like much better. Like, like we are way more smarter than the robots. Like,
Right,
how
and
many
finding out new
people?
processes or new areas of business, right, that needs that kind of
Exactly.
rigor. Because introducing, refining a process, adding a rigor to it, that's something a human can only do. Once all the processes, all the checks and balances, steps are well defined with your whatever you want to call it, right? Happy case or exception case, you have already outlined those well, then definitely that's a good candidate, and that should be automated. Whatever technology platform you use, that's completely up to that use case. But I think that's a very good ground to get started on that.
Guys, I'm going to go with the total low-key approach here, and it comes from real life experience. Um, I told this in the previous episode is, computers were made for diligence, machines were made for diligence, and humans for intelligence. And I always remember this, take this example of the microwave in the kitchen, right? And I remember those times when my mother put a boiled egg in there and blew up the microwave, right?
Mhm.
I distinctly remember the microwave was just destroyed. And I told my mom, it's a simple machine. It just, you put something in and you ask it to heat it up, it does it, it doesn't complain. But you have to pay attention to it as a human being because you're much smarter. You know what needs to be put in there and what not. So if you look at even the subtle things in life around you, right? Automation has made that possible for you, right? You wouldn't, like Pradeep, like you said, if Amazon isn't learning about your preferences, or if Amazon was not automating some of the processes in the back end, the people who complain about technology taking over the world sometimes are the very same people who want a next day delivery on their product from Amazon,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? The irony of it. If Amazon had not done that, if someone there didn't think about it, right, you wouldn't have the facilities you have today, right? How many of us make coffee with and this goes to a LinkedIn post that I responded to a few days ago. How many of us really make coffee with the same old tradition of boiling water in a kettle and then putting water in a French press, waiting for the decoction to settle? And how many of us do that? I mean, what, 1.1%, 0.2% of the population, the purest, but all of us stick something into the microwave and heat it. If you look around you, automation is everywhere around you. And for people to say technology has taken over our lives, it's not that. Technology has facilitated our lives, right? We wouldn't be able to make a cup of instant coffee in the morning and be get ready to work and get to work on time if it wasn't for automation. A microwave is like an attended automation.
Yeah.
So look around you. There are so many things you will find that automation has made possible. Technology has made possible, right? Your phone reminds you today. It's a robot. It reminds you about your appointments. There are alarms that wake you up in the morning. Everything in the palm of your hand.
Yeah, and alarm is, I think, one of the oldest form of automations. And
Correct.
even not just that, like I would say that that's all man-made world, right? Where we are
Yeah.
looking for automation. But if you look back, take a step back and look in nature, nature has automation as well in place.
Yep.
If there is no automation in nature, I don't think so. Even human species or any kind of life form would exist, because
Yep. Yep.
everything, all the weather patterns, no matter, as we all complain about, okay, there is a global warming and all that, but even with that, there is a cycle, there is a well-defined pattern in the
And I,
weather system, in your plants, right? How a seed grows at a certain time, and a plant from a wheat seed will grow after 6 months, and from a mango seed it will
Yep.
grow maybe after 4 months, 3 months, a year,
who,
right?
who said philosophy and science and technology cannot combine? This is a perfect example, right? I mean, philosophy, nature, science,
Yeah.
and technology, everything in
So
one sentence. Mr. Shukla, excellent.
and I think, Pradeep, I totally agree with you, because like even that cycle has been like transformed, like it evolved with our planet, right? So the
yeah,
same way, like even the technology, the automation, we all started with like calculators, like microwave alarm, and now we have like software robots. And I think like we are going to be like evolving as a human race, like to finding more and more. There is nothing like a limit to say like, okay, we are happy with this, like we are just going to stay with this technology. I don't think like we are that kind of a human race. Our civilization evolves, and I love that. I think we evolve with that.
To your point, Priya, if you have observed the cave paintings where there was a time when humans used to hunt one bison or one livestock, and the idea was few hunters would gather and they would isolate one livestock, and then they would chase
yeah,
it to the edge of the hill, and they would drop it, force it to jump, and then it would kill the prey, and then they would now have food to eat. But then you see those cave paintings evolve, and you saw more human beings chasing larger groups of livestock towards the hills, right? That was a gradual way of evolution of humanity, because it was natural tendency of our forefathers or ancestors to just get up and animate themselves. Animation is a form of automation, right? And animate themselves and bring humanity to where we are today, right? And if it wasn't for people, look what we are doing right now. There was a time we had to wait to organize a phone call between 3 time zones, right? Today we are talking, sharing screen traffic, looking at each other as if we are in the same room, talking to our parents, our loved ones. Now think about this. If there wasn't someone who wasn't passionate about technology,
Yeah.
who wasn't passionate to bring that to the people, do you think we
Right.
would be having these today, right? So
Right.
that is what we have to look at, in order to find motivations in our own lives, to see, hey, I get up in the morning, I'm doing this for the last 10 years now. What can I do something different? Because the world is going to move forward with or without me, right? There is a place for me in this world, but that is true. But it is also true that the world will move forward with or without you. But the world always has a place for you. They say, hey, right? It's like a bus. The bus always has a seat for you. Even after you pay for it, the bus can still leave and you can still miss the bus, right? And getting into technology, getting into automation is something like that. There is a place for you there. You can contribute to this world, but you have to make your move, right?
Exactly. And I think like I'll add to this like an example of my mother and my grandmother. Like when they started getting these like new smartphones, like it was difficult for them to adapt, learning like how a touch screen works and like teaching like how WhatsApp works to like ensure that we are in contact, right? So the same way they started learning so that they know that they have to evolve.
Yep.
I think those little things matter in our lives, and that's what like has brought us to this topic. Like what are those little things that has like you have
Yeah.
automated and you can like help suggest
My,
people here?
when I went to visit my mother, she's 70 years old. She gave me one of her phones to use at home, and I got a new SIM card, and she gave me a complete tutorial on how to change the SIM card on that phone.
There you go.
Yeah. Hey, you might want to check the slot on the other side. There are 2 slots. It's a dual SIM phone. I'm like, Mom, oh, that's awesome. Hey, call your dad a few days later. I'm going to set up WhatsApp on his phone. My mom is the IT administrator in my house. She's 70 years old. So yes, you can find the motivation if you want to, and you want to find a place in the world. There is always a place for you in the world. Don't get left behind. Right. So that's what I tell people. Look around you and find the motivations, and always think about yourself. Humans are intelligent by virtue. We are blessed with it, and most often than not, majority of the workforce is overqualified and doing underqualified jobs. Try to come out of that. Be a value add person, be it your life, be it your place of employment, be it your business. When you do value add, it will be very difficult for someone to say this person does not have, doesn't deserve to be on the team, because value add is what makes you valuable, to yourself, to the betterment in your life, and also to your business. Right. So
That's a
keep that
very
in
good
mind.
point. Yeah, that's absolutely great point, because being complacent is is the thing that will actually stop you from thinking or discovering those automation scenarios, right? So even though someone is doing just like what Andy mentioned, right? Overqualified people doing underqualified work. So it can happen that you are in your work and you're very comfortable in that, you like your coworkers, everything is great, right? The team morale is high, but you're doing something that is not stimulating enough, right?
Yep.
Or does not give you that challenge, because it happens to everyone, right? No matter what, whether you are just a computer science graduate, or you're an MBA, you are a banker, or you're a professor, or anyone, no matter, everyone is doing their best in their field of work. Even then, after a while, you actually lack that enthusiasm, lack that stimulation that you had when you actually joined the first time the company.
Yep.
I remember when I was in my first company that I actually stayed up for a release. I stayed up 3 nights with a group of folks, and
We
it
all
was
remember
like,
that. We all
yeah,
remember that.
and it was like such a stimulating environment.
Yep.
The work was not difficult. Work was definitely, it was something that we had to do. We were running against the time. But
we
when
were
I look
learning.
back, those things for which I spent those 3 nights, today I know those things can be done in few hours.
Yep.
Mhm.
I mean,
Because like they were like, okay, the software was built, it was getting tested, it was going through, there was no automation scripts, people were testing manually
yep.
back
But
then, right?
Pradeep,
So
I bet that
there's so many
situation actually
areas.
pushed you out of your comfort zone, right?
Yeah,
It does. I mean, there may be constraints at work that will stop you from practicing or needing to learn. But please remember one thing, I've realized this over the period of my 20, 25 years in this business is humans are like knives, we don't use the knife every day, it is going to go blunt. Over the period of time, we lose the ability to learn. And you don't have to do a massive research project every day. Learn one new thing a day,
right.
and it stimulates you and makes you sharp. So if your job is not giving you the time to do it, because there may be constraints, hey, you cannot install free software at work.
Yeah.
Your job takes full time. But folks, please do invest in yourself, right? You've got UiPath Studio X, which is completely free, and it is easier than ever to get started with automation, right?
Yep.
If you don't have a project to do, there are use cases that you can find online and say, hey, this looks pretty similar to what I'm doing. So can I try this out? Can I give this a shot? There's always the starting trouble. There's always, I'm not going to sugarcoat this for you. Will we trip and fall? Yes.
Yeah.
Our robots trip and fall. The ones we build, we have built, tens of robots now in the few years. But even now, when we build our first robot, it gets out of the gate, trips and falls flat on its face.
Even
So,
the ones that was working yesterday, it will fail
yes,
tomorrow. You don't know that, right?
yes, yeah,
You switch the
yeah,
browser, like even the slightest things, yes. But I think,
yeah,
Yeah.
Andy, to your point, like it's really, really important to
yeah,
emphasize that, like
yeah,
invest in yourself, because
yeah.
like no one else is gonna do it for you, right? Because
We,
we all, like in today's world, spend a lot of time with the social media and all that. But for me, like it was important that I spent time, like, before pandemic, I was like traveling for like at least 90 minutes a day.
yeah,
And that was like time spent like sleeping or like just waiting for the bus to arrive. I think that time I used like some of my time to actually go to this academy and like start looking up courses. And it was like short snippets. I
yep.
didn't have to like wait for the whole, the whole plan, the course plan,
The,
but
you,
invest in ourselves,
yeah,
right?
I think, Priya, if you go back home and just take a rough estimate of the 90 minutes you traveled every day, multiplied by the number of the days of the
Yeah.
year you worked, and the number of years you worked for the company and traveled that path, you will see the phenomenal amount of time that you spent looking at the inside of your car, doing absolutely almost next to nothing, but just sitting there and manipulating the controls of your car, or looking out the window of a bus, or sleeping on a train. But the daily commute analogy is something that you ought to consider and think. We live in an era where connectivity is easier than ever before. And don't think of whether you're a technical person or not. Believe me,
Right.
there are people today who are absolutely not technical, know how to live stream on YouTube, know how to post updates to social media, right? Record a video from on their cell phone and immediately post it to Twitter or Instagram or whatever the media site is. Are you telling me that you are not technical? Right? So you are in a way intelligent, technical, and motivated. You see, motivation is the key. What motivates you to pick up that phone, record something, and post it to social media? Do you think that you're a technical person at that time? So why think about it at other times, right?
Yeah, I think
Think about that.
I think the labeling has actually made things more difficult for people to
Correct.
enter. I think that's what to blame for. I would say, because these tools and products we all are using in some way or other way, and the most interesting thing is that the way you are using it, the way I am using it, it may be completely different.
Yep.
And that's the interesting area someone needs to focus. If you
Correct.
have, because see, that's how you know new areas to find out and new avenues to develop.
Right.
And that was a very good point, going back what Andy you mentioned, right? And Priya also alluded to that, that going through small courses or small short videos, and back, like sometime back in UiPath, primarily you only had Academy as a resource, but now the YouTube is full of it. Mr.
Full
Andy
of it.
Menon is one of the YouTubers. We have such an excellent videos, very precise to the point course, right? So you can pick up one topic and you can learn about it. Obviously, when you're listening to it, when you're looking at it, you won't get the hands-on feeling, but that's the next stage, right? First,
Right.
you get that essence of it, what this is all about, and then you go practice it, and then you mirror it, right?
Yep.
That's the starting point. When we were very young kids, when I look at my son who is very young, right? When he starts writing, right, he is just mirroring each letter, and that's how we all start.
Yep.
When we start with small programming, or when I started, everyone did a hello world
Yep.
program, right? It's not like anything new to it. So I think that's a great point. And if you lack certain skill, to be honest, you are just one YouTube video away from that knowledge.
Think
You
about it.
just watch it
Even
and then you know it.
now, guys, think
In
about
a
it.
way.
15, 18 years ago, if you wanted to learn something, there was no, probably Google wasn't as expansive, or online courses weren't as expansive. You had to drive to a bookstore or drive to a library. And if you couldn't afford a book, which was very expensive, you go to a library and you find out it's been checked out, or that book cannot be checked out because it's a reference book,
Yeah.
right? So you have to lug all your gear, go to the library, sit down, rummage through those pages. And in a book, other than an index, there really isn't an easy way to search for things, right? So you rummage through those hundreds of pages to find what you're looking for. So you see where we are living in, the era we are living in. We are living in an era that's been the easiest. You are on a way to a conference. You don't know something about the topic they're talking. You can read about it on the way to that conference. You didn't have that luxury a few years ago.
Yeah.
You had to actually take the time to prepare for it.
Yeah, and internet has made that possible, Andy.
Yep.
I mean, like, it's really, what you're saying is like has a very deep meaning, right?
Yep.
Because like when I was in college and everything, like you said, it was so difficult. Even like when you ask those questions to your professors, they had to go reference those books
Correct.
that you mentioned,
Right.
Correct.
and like come back and explain to us. It was really hard for them as well.
Yep. Yeah, in a future episode, we'll talk about how our journey into automation has made us better. This is just not about getting started with automation.
Right. This is, yeah, we just briefly touched upon how you find and where to look for automation use cases or automation scenarios. And again, but don't just get bogged down with the term automation, right? Automation is just a representation of making anything better. Just like
automation is repetition on steroids. That's all it is.
Exactly. I hate labels in a way, because sometimes people get scared, or they actually step back when they hear about these words that they may not have heard, or they have not used it in their daily life. So don't take it that way. It cannot be hard as nothing can be hard that you cannot try.
Yeah. Forget about robots, folks. It's all digital assistants now. It's assistants now. There are no robots. I mean, everything is transformed. It's all of this the transformation, all these modernities you see in society has given a new meaning to everything, right? So don't get bogged down by terminologies and
Right.
lingo and language specific stuff. Uh, Pick up
Yeah.
something that interests you most in your life, right? Are you a photographer? Do you love to make albums of your collection, but you really hate the idea of uploading these pictures to your online album? How do you automate that, right? Dump a bunch of pictures in an SD card and then give it to your digital assistant and ask it to do the upload for you. You can find time to do something better. There are aspects of our life that we love to do, but there are some things that are so bad that you hate to do that are attached to it, right? Try to find those things and try to automate them, right? And try to give it to your digital sidekick and see how it goes. Believe me, I have trained more than a dozen people who did not bother to Google what RPA is when they stepped into the first meeting with us. A year after their training, they do not want to go back. Take it from me, I'll stake my job on it. Right?
I think that's true, Andy. Like you are so, I think you nailed it right on the head, because like this era that we live in, like we all like use Alexa and Siri like for our personal assistant. So I feel like this automation that we are doing is very similar to that.
Yeah.
Like pretty soon we will have it like Excel in our computers, right?
If automation should terrify you, then using a microwave should terrify you.
Yeah.
There you
And
go.
every aspect of our life is impacted by that, and
Yep.
that's why there is no need to afraid
Yep.
of it. If you and that's your motivation, because
Yep.
that will help you learn something, learn a new skill, learn
Yep.
a way of thinking, or learn how to solve a certain problem in a certain way. And UiPath products are out there. Studio X is one of the incumbent that actually has least bells and whistles, but at the same time, it's powerful enough to get through and help you build the basic automation that you'll use day to day without having any background of computer science or programming, if you will. So you can use that. There are other products are also out there. UiPath is working on a few other products like Studio Web that will be released very soon. So we'll talk about those. So those are the entry points, and once you are entered, just like Andy mentioned, right? I'm sure you'll definitely won't want to go back.
Yep. I amen to that.
Yeah, push yourself, strive forward, and don't be afraid. I think like if anything, that fear of missing out should be about like not knowing about the technology. I think this is the time that we all have to like invest in ourselves
Right.
and just look back and reflect. Don't be afraid. We all are gonna like fall and learn. Everybody has learned how to ride a bicycle. Imagine the same thing. You
Yep.
will like, even to get that hello world, you might stumble upon like issues, but don't be afraid. That shouldn't stop you. Do it
Yep.
again like 5 times, like, or like ask questions. Like you
And
can
that's where
always
the
be
community
ranting.
will come in picture, right? That's where
Yeah,
the I would say the community, the forum is a great place to hang out.
exactly.
Whether it's a simple question, tough question, layman's question, doesn't matter.
Don't
Uh,
worry.
the most interesting thing is there is always not just one or two. I would say hundreds of folks are already there round the clock helping out each other, right? So
Yep.
it's pretty interesting how that works out with a collaborative effort, right? Without having a dedicated help desk itself. So yeah, there are enough resources, and if you need any uh, specific area that you want to focus on and need a certain set of guidance, then you are welcome to get in touch with any of us here.
Yep. That's a good takeaway for this hour, I think. And we are always there. And please, 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 look around you to find the motivation. I'm sure it is everywhere.
Yeah, and share it with us. We'll
Yeah.
love to hear what is your motivation.
Yep.
And please keep learning. Like there's nothing stopping you from learning. So keep it up and subscribe to our channel. Like we'll come back to you with like more such interesting episodes. And thanks, Andy and Pradeep, for your wonderful insights.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you, Pradeep.
Thank you.
Thank
Like,
you.
subscribe.
Yep. Like and subscribe. Thank you very much, everybody. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye bye.